Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here for this Saturday morning work session on the water and sewer fund budgets. My name is Jeannie Jenkins, and I have the pleasure of chairing this board. I'll ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Hi, I'm Tom Haley.
Good morning, I'm Clark Adams. I want to start off with that. I apologize, I'm not going to be able to stay for the full meeting. I have a long-standing prior engagement, and I apologize.
How long can you stay, Clark?
Hopefully, at least an hour, maybe a little longer.
We won't have a quorum unless Ed shows up, so we'll see what happens then, okay?
I think these budgets are pretty straightforward.
Okay.
We may be able to get through them very quickly.
Okay. Also with us today is Town Manager Stu Hurd, and Nancy Lively taking minutes, as always, and Jim Byers on the camera for Cat TV, which we thank very much. So with that, Stu, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay. Joining us from the town staff are R.J. Jolly, Larry Gates, and Melissa Courier at the table. John DeMore is behind them, Michelle Johnson to my right, and the other visitor with us is Sam Restino. The budgets are pretty straightforward, as I said earlier. We're looking at an increase in the water fund budget of 2.7%, an increase in the sewer fund budget of 3.5%. I give a lot of credit to the three folks at the table here who have worked very hard to present budgets that are as flat as possible, given cost of raises, health care, and some of the other materials that we must purchase to operate. These are reflected then in rates, which are actually up a little bit more than that percentage, because we have seen for like the fourth consecutive or fifth consecutive year in a row, water use has dropped again. So our people in that use the system, for whatever reason, are being more conscious of their use. We've lost a lot of the businesses that used a lot of water. They're no longer with us. And so we don't know what else to attribute it to, but they do end up with rates that are slightly more than the budgeted presentation. And what's in your packet is not only my explanation with highlights, but also Melissa's detailed information on how depreciation is arrived at and what capital assets we are looking to purchase. And then the last page is the projected rates, which are currently a 3.7% increase in the water fund rate and a 4.1% increase in the sewer fund rate. And so with that, I think we'll turn it over to you folks to question my staff and I as to what you might have concerns about.
Anyone want to start with questions?
Well, I got a list. If somebody's got short...
Why don't you do two, and then we'll just go.
Okay. I don't know if... Obviously, a big thing impacting this is the cost of health care. And I don't question how hard the people work, but health care is something that has gone through the roof in Vermont over the past 8 or so years because of what they're doing in Montpelier. And I guess I need to understand more as a town what we pay per person, and of that, how much they kick in. Because a lot of other employers in Bennington, each year employers are getting hit to take on more and more of the increases. I don't know as far as deductibles go, do they pay all of those? Does the town kick in anything for that?
Sure thing. Yep. The health care plan we have is a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. It is a high deductible plan, I think $5,600 per family. Currently, the employees pay 14, or is it 15% of the premium. That is negotiated with both unions and applied across the board for all employees. I can't tell you exactly what each single two-person or family plan costs, but the town does insure the primary portion of that deductible so that the town employees pay $500 out of pocket first dollar, and then the town self-insures the remainder to the $5,600.
Employees pay 16%. 16.
16, is it 16? Okay, thank you, Michelle.
And that's a union, that's contractual.
That is a negotiated
Okay.
payment.
So an employee pays $500,
Yes,
for
plus 16% of the cost of the plan.
so each month they're paying 60% of the cost of the town.
16%, yes, they pay it on a...
16?
16. So the
Okay.
town's paying 84%.
And I think that's something we need to take a look at.
We have contracts in place that for at least 2 more years with the police, 3 more years with Public Works.
So it's a
Okay.
contract.
Well, when you read through here just what the cost went up for the first 6 months,
We all are concerned with the rates that are being approved by the healthcare folks.
oh, no, definitely, this is coming out of Montpelier, and that's who we have to blame, but,
Well, not necessarily. It's the insurance industry. And some of the changes that Montpelier is making does potentially drive up costs, but not necessarily all of the legislative changes actually make cost. A lot of it is the insurer's desire to make money.
but they're approving a lot of these increases in Montpelier.
Yes, they do.
They're approving a lot of these increases, big increases for insurers, and they're approving a lot of big increases that the hospitals across the state are asking for. And that is impacting everybody, especially those who have to pay for people who work for the schools, the towns, the states. And if you're not in one of those pools, you're really getting hit. So we have at least 2 more years to go before this gets addressed.
Before we can change the current system, yes,
And did I read this, that everybody gets a 5% increase for a raise?
that's correct. That is also a negotiated increase.
That's automatically in there too?
Yes.
But you do realize a lot of people aren't even getting a cost of living increase.
That may be true, Nancy. These rates were negotiated when the contracts were renegotiated.
How long is the contract good for?
Police contract, I think, expires in '27, and the DBW in '28, something along
No,
those
but
lines.
how long is when you negotiate it, how long is the contract? Is it a 5-year contract?
The DPW this time was a 5-year contract. Police has basically been a 3-year agreement. And the idea, the longer the term contract, the better for us, because we know what our costs are going to be on an annual basis. But
Well, no, we didn't know because nobody could have imagined what the healthcare costs were going to be.
Nancy, we only have it for an hour.
Okay, okay. The next section, the land we owe in Pownell, Woodford, and Stanford. Is Woodford tied to our water?
yes.
And Pownell and Stanford, is that tied to our water?
At one time it was part of the Sucker Pond or Hancock Lake system. We no longer use that source, so we're now, we own 90 feet around Hancock Lake, and then we own an additional 400 or 500 acres in Stamford and Pownell that we're treating as a woodlot, and we're currently logging them, generating income that goes into a capital reserve, which helps us.
And were they all put into land trust at the same time? And about how many years ago did that happen?
Let's say 3 years ago.
It's not land trust.
Not the land trust, but the, it's a forestry program for
Land use.
Land use. Thank you very much, RJ.
But if we ever want to sell that land, we're not going to get nearly what we could have because they're in land trust.
No, it doesn't affect it that way. If we wanted to sell the land.
Questions rather than make statements, Nancy.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Wouldn't someone wanting to buy that land be limited what they could use it for because it's in Vermont Land Trust?
No, it's
No.
not in the land trust and they would not be limited.
I'm sorry?
It's not in the land trust and they would not be limited. It's a land use program which would tax.
All right, so that's different then. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so that's your 2 questions. Let's move on because we only have support for now.
Okay, Jeannie. I don't understand why we're doing it with so few select board members. That concerns me.
Nancy, we have known for 3 weeks that 2 members were absent. I do not know about the other member that's missing. confusing, but we have quorum, and we're trying to get through this so that we can take this up to 24th and vote. I have a question about electric use. I'm happy to hear that it's stabilized to some extent. Stu, maybe this is a question for you too, or Dan, but are there any opportunities for us, this is my perennial question, for us to increase our electricity generation to cover some of this?
No. All of our meters most of our meters are dedicated to their programs for solar or hydro.
So the costs here, are we doing,
We pay a discounted rate.
we're paying a discounted rate already? Okay, that's our question. Okay. Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Nancy, for bringing up the healthcare issue. I did do some research on that, and the 12.8% is lower than Blue Cross is actually asking for currently, but it still is a pretty steep boost, but we have no real control over that, unless, of course, we could manage to get universal health care. I had a couple questions. So this one. What's going on with truck 108? We're looking to replace truck 108 with either a van or a truck?
That is a service truck that we have. It's a 2015 service truck.
Okay, and it said there's no trade-in on it, and it's going to Shannon. What's up with that?
That is the mechanic's position. So you may use it for road calls or when he goes somewheres.
Oh, okay. So our mechanic is named Shannon.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes.
I was a little confused. Under the treatment systems, it says we're projecting large increases this year to do some extensive repair projects. Could you just go into a little detail, not in
Are you
depth
on
detail?
water or sewer?
I'm on sewer.
Sewer.
Let's stick with water right now.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
On page
Actually, I think
2
Nancy covered most of the questions I had on water, so I'll come back when we get to
Okay,
sewer.
all right. Barb, any questions on water?
Briefly, kind of touch on one of your areas of great interest. You know, there's vehicle 108. You say you're going to replace it with another service van?
We were trying to decide whether to go with a van or a truck. We've gone back and forth on the pros and cons of both, and being that we always have to carry a ladder with us and service keys to get into all the valve boxes, the 8-foot-long service keys to get down into the ground. It's kind of showing that the van may not be practical. The ladder is going to be on top of it. The tools would be contained inside, which would be beneficial, but the keys, which we carry about 6 or 8 per truck for different valves and stuff, just don't really have a good spot for them.
Has there been any consideration of the replacement vehicle being an EV?
It would be a 3/4 ton truck or a 3/4 ton van, just for the amount of weight that's in it. I'm not versed on how an electric vehicle would handle that type of weight and being able to pull a trailer, so.
Okay, so,
It would need to have some research done on it.
okay, I just wondering, as you know, that's something that seems to be in public conversation in electric vehicles, so it's a consideration. And what you mentioned, the issues of weight, capability, and function, of course, we can't buy something we can't use.
Right?
Okay. That was my only question. Everything else seems to be fine. And of course, I understand the healthcare expenses. I wish we could fix it here.
There's a line that in 2019, there's a transfer that goes to the highway fund. Sorry?
Can you tell us where you are?
Page 2, 41, 5,900, 861. It says this is increases for administrative costs.
So that is the water department's portion of Bowen Road, using Bowen Road. So we didn't have.
Okay.
When we left our facility on Burgess Road and came here, that's our kind of cost for using our space, paying our portion of the heat, our portion of the electric.
Okay, right down below that, under buildings, we're paying $97,000 for electricity. With the solar fields in Bennington, are we as a town not at the top of the line to be benefiting from that, or?
We already get a discounted rate.
That's what?
We already get a discounted rate, that was my question.
Okay, well, I don't understand if we're losing our landscape for solar fields. I would think we as a town would be at the first to benefit.
I think that's a longer discussion with Dan, which I've had
The
several
State
times.
Public Utilities Commission doesn't impose those sort of requirements on
Okay.
solar.
41, 59, 20, 79, talking about meters.
So that's a revolving fund that we use to purchase water meters and maintain the existing water meters.
I
So
know
for instance, Hoffman's Car Wash just come in, their 3-inch meter is $3,800. So we purchase that out of this line item, and then we sell that meter to Hoffman's when they come in. So Hoffman's will refund us that. But out of that $20,000, we also have 1,500 meters to maintain. So like, say a hospital, the hospital has a 6-inch
How
meter.
many do you have?
Around 1,500 meters, 1,400 and something.
I know several years ago, there was a big discussion about homeowners going to meters, and the talk was who would buy the meters and who would pay to maintain them. Can a homeowner still buy a meter today?
Yes. A homeowner can buy a meter. They purchase the meter through us because it's less expensive than buying it commercially. But once the meter is installed, it becomes our responsibility to maintain it. And so that if that meter fails in year 10, we are required to replace it at our cost because it's a part of our system now, and we maintain it because we need it to manage and understand what water use.
Well, this is something we should really be talking about publicly, because if 1 or 2 people live in a house, they're paying the same rates as a family of 8.
That's true.
But the other side of the coin is if everybody went to meters and the town is going to be responsible to replace them or maintain them, how is that going to impact the budget in the future?
Well, it'd be a tremendous cost up front. The cost, it'd be hard to understand. Probably initially, if everybody that is a single-family dwelling currently went to meters, the cost would be ours because we would be mandating that they change their system. So the cost, we would be buying those meters for those, I don't know how many thousand homes that exist.
Another 2,000 homes, approximately.
Those meters would probably be good for a long time, so it doesn't necessarily translate to an annual maintenance cost, huge increase there. But at some point in the future, the cost to replace all those meters would become ours as well. I couldn't project, and I don't think anybody could project how long. Meters last a pretty good long time.
30 years?
20, 30 years. The meter itself, the radio head on top of it is expected battery life of 17 years. We've seen them 17 years, but we've also seen them where they've prematurely worn out.
And how much maintenance a year is involved with, do you just go around and check them with your?
We do drive-bys 4 times a year, quarterly. So we can read all the meters in town in a few hours in a morning.
It's a radio read.
It's a radio read.
Couldn't we do it not mandated as a town?
You have to be in the ordinance or something where if you sold a home, it has to have a meter or something.
I mean, right now, if 500 people, homeowners, said we want meters, we'll pay the $300 they get put in. We could do it that way, couldn't we?
A 5/8 water meter is about $700, and then you got the cost of the plumbing to install it. So you'd be looking at around $1,000 per residential meter.
But that's an option now, right? I can say I want a meter.
You absolutely could, yes. Yep.
Any idea what a homeowner is saving, say 1 or 2 people, when they go to that rather than paying?
It would all depend on usage. We find, I think, a
I mean,
two-person
somebody who's not out watering their lawn every day and
they're going to
just-
save money if they go, like a 2-person paying a flat rate and went to a meter and didn't wash their cars every day or wash their driveway, then they would save money.
Then I think we need to start looking at the other side. If we did go to all meters, I wouldn't want the town to be responsible to have to buy and replace them all the time. That would put the cost back onto the town again, basically the people.
That's true, but that's how you operate a meter system.
That's something we ought to probably talk about in the future.
Kind of similar to Green Mountain Power. They supply the meter for you, and then they own and maintain it. If something fails with that meter, they come and change it.
Okay.
It's similar.
On page 3, 41, 59, 45, 60, cost for gravel crushing and engineering assistance. Do we go out to bid for engineering?
No, we don't. That is one of the exceptions in the purchasing policy. We contract all of our water system engineering with MSK Engineering. We've worked with them for so many years. They have actually helped us computerize, map our system. That's one of those costs that we go and work with them on a continuing basis. They understand our system. They've helped us map it. It wouldn't make sense to go out to bid on an annual basis or a contracted year basis every time the contract runs out.
And I'll remind us that we all receive that list of all the agencies or
Right.
businesses that we work with that we don't go out to bid on for very specific reasons.
Sole sourcing.
Conversely, Nancy, in the wastewater, we used Aldrich and Elliott, which is an engineering firm that has helped us design our most recent upgrade. So we are staying with them because they understand our wastewater treatment system and the plant itself. So those two engineering firms are the ones that we originally hired them by bid, but they have now become very necessary for us in order to continually understand and upgrade our plants and facilities.
Okay.
Nancy, that line item's actually reduced 2,000 from last year.
Okay. Down at the bottom.
And then after that, you move down.
All right, well, no, go ahead then, that's all right.
Can I ask about, this page 3, 41, 59, 80, 220, and 230? They're the repair and maintenance supplies and small tools, equipment purchase. This looks like one of those cases where our budget for next year has been reduced. I just want to make sure that you actually have the money you need for repair and purchasing.
The 210 line item is our operating supplies. A few things have gone down in that line item, just being purchased previously. The 5980 230 was we were slowly upgrading a round of our pH probes, and they're $3,000 a piece. So we finished that round.
So you're not anticipating?
No, no.
Thank you. Anything else on
Maybe tangentially. And I'm looking at the comment on the PFOA here, system. Page 1, item 4159.380, second item down there.
Depreciation?
Right, just in terms of how PFOA is going to affect this line item, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that the prevalence or the awareness of PFOA seems to have increased. Out on the west side, I think there are some areas that came up. Is that going to impact on this?
This is a different line item. This is the depreciation cost that we pay each year towards different assets. It just happens to be that we had a large expansion with our PFOA, so that's an asset. So we had to pay that depreciation towards that, hence the reason it went up.
Yeah,
The
Clark,
cost-
if you look after the water budget, page 3 of 3, the system forecast depreciation that Melissa prepares, those things that are shown in yellow are what are impacting the depreciation costs this year. And one of those is the Settlers Road PFOA, which is estimated at $1.5 million. And that's for Settlers Road and Spring Hill Road, which were not connected when the last round of work was done out there. Now, we have found that the wells out there are contaminated. The people would like to have municipal water. The state of Vermont is actually funding this on a reimbursement program, so they're paying 100%. We have to pay it out. They pay us back, but it does then become part of our system, and we have to develop a depreciated amount so that in the future, when we get around to it, we'll have the funds set aside to be able to handle a replacement should it be needed.
Okay, thank you.
The bottom of page 3, the last one, bond payments decreased slightly this year. When do you estimate we'll need another bond?
The water system, I think the next big project we're looking at, and Larry can probably speak to this in much more detail, is the replacement of our filters at the water treatment facility. Larry, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So
Give
the
us a
filters at the
timeline.
filtration plant are original from 1978. They are the size of an 18-wheeler body. They're filled with anthracite coal, stone, underbedding. That's how they work. They do work, but on a heavy rain, we struggle sometimes. So we use Morgan Springs a lot to relieve the plant duties so that we can put out good water. Technology's come a long ways in the 46 years that those things have been sitting there. We could actually replace the capacity of all 4 filters in the footprint of 1 filter. They do work. In 2006, when we went through the upgrade, it was opted to keep those filters because they do work. But that would be our next big project for water. That and some improvements at the intake to do some pre-treatment for pH before it actually gets to the plant. Right now, our pH comes down around a 4.8 to a 5.6, which is very, very acidic. It's not ideal to treat water or put into cement tanks or cement-lined pipe. It's always looking for to be happy, and it's not. So it will eat the concrete right out of a tank. It will pull the lime right out of it. So we treat with lime at the filtration plant, but it's not enough time to really get the water where it needs to be. So sometimes we still kind of struggle with that. That's part of our corrosion control. The lime silo has been a nightmare with caking up lime. It's been a maintenance nightmare since it's been installed in 2006. We actually moved it in 2020 to get it closer to where we use it. We moved the whole lime silo, which is quite the project. Since then, it's definitely been less maintenance, but so if we could pre-treat up in Woodford at the near the intake, it would just make everything a lot easier. We could use different chemicals. We could use a different process, and when it gets to the plant and we inject polymer, then everything would just work better. So.
And what are we talking about in estimated cost?
Off the maybe 5 million, roughly.
And just so I'm clear, is that the last building you showed me when I was out there?
This is in Woodford. This is at 1378.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead. Okay.
Yep. This is the water filtration plant.
And when would you want to do that?
Our bond payment for there ends in 2028, I believe. That was our 20-year.
So we would look then to probably go to a bond 2029 beyond.
Okay.
We'd be doing some engineering work ahead of time and kind of coming up with what we're going to do for filters and what we're going to do at the intake and have a game plan going into it. But, at some point when one bond payment comes off, it would almost be nice to put another one in its place, ideally.
The filters now are metal and they're very thin and they're starting to leak through. And we do scrape them down and paint them in the wintertime, but their life expectancy is coming to a near end.
Okay. I'm done with water.
Any other questions on water? right. Thank you. That was really good. So let's move to sewer fund highlights. Anything you want to tell us, or should we just go into questions?
Sewer fund, the chemical costs keep increasing, and we do use quite a few chemicals out there, between polymer, sodium bisulfite, chlorine. They don't go down, they just continue to go up every year. That's 598210. Yeah, I don't think there's too many other increases, but
The state's given us more unfunded mandates also for the permits, so that's going to drive chemical costs through the roof also.
Right, if there's a change there, you want to make a change at the back end, is that?
Yeah, the permit needs to be renewed. I think is it next year?
it's actually, it's out to public comment right now. We have until July 10th to put our comments on it. We've been negotiating with the state back and forth on some parameters of the permit. The state has listened to a few of them, but still have mandated a phosphorus limit that is we have to come in compliance in 2028 with that. That's the filter that we were talking about that would help solve the phosphorus problem. Because just the chemical alone is extremely expensive, but if you use a small amount of chemical in the filter, then we can meet our phosphorus limit. The filter that we have is currently 1985.
83 to 85, yeah.
Yep, when they did the upgrade in 1985. It's a sand filter, which is similar to a giant pool filter, and it holds 88 tons of sand. We've had to take all the sand out and put all new sand in. It gets blinded, it breaks down, the particles get too small, and believe it or not, it wears the sand out. But it gets sucked up through the backwash filter and just discharged. So we've done that a few times. The media plates are all blinded. It was a great technology in 1985. It's not the technology now. They use a disc media filter with cloth membranes that you can take it looks like a giant piece of pie. You take that wedge out, you clean it will backwash automatically, but every once in a while you got to take that off and pressure wash the cloth media on it and put it back into service. It is a maintenance item, but everything out there is.
But isn't this the building you said you'd take the roof off and
That's and put the disc filters into the existing structure, or when the time comes, we could look at the two facilities that we went and visited, actually decommission that building completely and use it for a tank farm for different chemicals and put the new building next to it.
Then I hope you'll have the cost for the new building, because what you explained for me, using the old building, the amount of time you'd have to spend per year, it would be less with the new building. So, I mean, if it's cheaper to go with the new building, that should be an option.
Sometimes retrofitting things is not always the answer, but we'll definitely look at the cost of a new structure versus using the existing structure.
What's the timing on that?
We're waiting on the state for the intended use plan to get funded for through the SRF Clean Water Fund. So that's about it. It was estimated as a $1.5 million project before COVID. I think we're somewhere's up above 2.2 million now, just with timing and.
That's just replacing. That's not replacing the building.
That's just replacing the disc filters at this point and retrofitting the building that we have.
But if it's going to cost us more in the long run for how you're going to have to go in there every year, if it's cheaper to pay up front for the building to save us money over 10 or 20 years, I would just like to know, because you're going to know that within the next year, right?
Yes, definitely. As soon as we get funded, that's when all the engineering will start to zero in on what we're going to do and routes that we can take. Right now we have a pre-engineering report of different options that we could have went with. We chose disc media filter after looking at different plants, and everybody who has them is happy with them. Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do to come up with what we're going to do.
So Larry, do you have a sense of when you would, so I'm assuming that at some point you would come to us and say, here are the two options.
So if we get the intended use plan should be coming out, the priority list should be coming out soon. The applications were due in February, but we've actually been on it for almost 2 years now. I think we went on in 2022. So we didn't make it the first couple cuts. We'll see if we make it this cut. If we do, that's when things will start ramping up on the timing. And then it depends how aggressive we want to be. We could try to go to a vote for funding this November. We could, go wait till town meeting in March, or it all depends on how fast we want to move on it. We do have until 2028 to meet the phosphorus limit, but we do have to run the filter if the river gets too low. So if the flow in the river gets too low, we have to run the filter. And that's...
The electric costs out there, just over $250,000. That's for everything, right?
Yes, there's over 300 electric motors out there. Some run 24 hours a day, and some of the big ones that you saw during your tour, like the big main raw sewage pump motors, they alternate through the day. So usually one or two will run each day, and they just keep alternating through. But yes, there's a lot of electric motors.
No, I understand seeing all the engines, all the motors. Again, my question is, if we have solar fields, and I don't know if they have the water power systems, we're paying $250,000 just out there, and I want the town to benefit, to be first in line for these solar projects and whatever projects. I mean, if we're giving up our landscape, we should be at the top of the line, not having to pay all these big electric bills. I'd also like to ask that
The answer is the same for this as well, right? We get a reduced rate.
That meter that powers the wastewater treatment plant is actually dedicated to the solar field on Route 7 South. And we get a discounted rate because of our agreement with the solar.
Well, there's a field behind Home Depot, right?
We aren't associated with it. The town doesn't have an agreement regarding that. That one's, other end users are getting a discount for that.
But they have one field. People are talking about the second one going in between, is it the Silk Road and Harwood Hill? And I know they want a third field.
Nancy, that's private.
Those are private solar
That's a
developers.
private
So we don't have an agreement with them to get a discounted rate.
We do have, the town does have a solar.
Yeah, Route 7, and then we also have an agreement with the hydro to develop the hydro facility on 67A and, I don't know, Bennington Road. So virtually all of our meters are associated with getting discounts on renewable projects.
So we are maximizing, that's what I was asking, could we add more solar capacity or hydro capacity and get more discounts? And Dan is saying, no, that we're maxed out for right now, because you have to dedicate,
Those meters have to be associated and dedicated with a specific project, and almost all of our meters already are. That being said, the only way that we could really benefit from increased solar is if we leased our land for solar fields or something like that, but we don't have the opportunity to get traditional discounts until our contracts with the current renewable energy producers expire in about anywhere from 10 to 15 years, depending on where we are.
So as more solar fields pop up in our town, privately owned, we don't benefit.
That's
the hospital light, for instance.
Yeah, the hospital got a negotiated agreement with but each solar developer identifies end users, quote end users, where those end users will dedicate a meter to that particular project, and then they'll get a discount for the amount based on the amount of energy produced on that solar field. So let's say you pay $1,000 a month for solar for electric. Well, you might pay $900 if you're associated with a meter to get a 10% discount.
Then I guess I'm missing something. I don't care if it's where we have it located or private. We're losing in Bennington our landscape. Why weren't we in negotiations with these private ones, so we can benefit from that.
Because the town of Bennington has absolutely no control over solar facilities. Those are completely controlled by the State Public Utility Commission. We don't have any authority whatsoever. We can comment and say we don't like it. We can say it's great. We can do whatever. We can even ask them, hey, they should give the town some money. But we don't control that decision. That's the Public Utilities.
And is this how it is all across the state?
It's 100% across the state. It's a source of some angst with some folks, but it's completely under the exclusive control of the Public Utility Commission.
What a loss for Vermont.
It's a state agency.
Okay, how many questions have you done?
I'm sure too many, Jeannie. Go to somebody else.
Okay, Tom, you have it. I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance. Tom, you have it.
Yeah, I just wanted you to touch on what some of the large extensive system repair projects we're looking at. Is that
So on the, I'm assuming you're talking about
5440 210?
210. So that is for pipe and manholes and frames and covers. We've kind of changed gears a little bit on the sewer system, and it's worked out over the last couple of years. We're doing some of the smaller diameter sewer mains, such as Pleasant Street in North Bennington, which we own. You know, the sewer, we own the sewer. It's another one we did.
McKinley Street, Coolidge.
We haven't done, we've done parts of Coolidge.
Yeah.
But we're going in and where the 6-inch clay is collapsed or compromised, it's too small to be slip lined. The slip liners can't really get into a 6-inch sewer main to slip line. The tools don't fit in to drill out the services and everything. It's very costly to do it per foot. 8-inch and above that's the way to go, slip lining. So we're changing out some of these bad sections of 6-inch in-house. So the increased cost in the 440 210 is for the pipe and the couplings, manholes, frames, and covers. You'll see under 560 that also pretty much doubled. That is the 560, which is going towards the gravel crushing, because the sewer department is now switched over and using a lot more of the gravel, so their share of the gravel crushing went up. So those, and also on the 210 is the hot mix. Part of that is the hot mix cost, which can be costly, because if we're doing a sewer job, it's not highway's responsibility to patch the road if it's still in good shape. So the sewer kind of takes that charge, such as McKinley Street. McKinley Street, we've done a little under half of that repair so far. It's 15 feet deep. It's once we get some other projects wrapped up, we're going back to finish the rest of McKinley Street, and then the sewer department will be responsible for paving that over.
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
Nancy, back to you.
Time me. When I came out for the tour at the wastewater plant, did I understand you to say that we're maxed out?
We're close to our max flow. So our running annual average cannot exceed 5.1 million gallons. That's what we're permitted for. Our new permit did not increase that level. We would have to change a process. What that means kind of is, if we start getting to that point closer, the state is probably going to mandate us to do some I&I studies, which is the inflow and infiltration, which is roof drains and sump pumps. And so we would put sensors in different manholes, and we would start narrowing it down to streets. So we'd start at a certain spot. So we would know, the last time we did it, we put them in out by the museum, and we knew that the west end had a bunch of I&I coming in. So then you start moving the sensors out closer, and then it gets to the point where you're actually televising the sewer mains and seeing whose service is dumping water in. So it's very costly for the town for these people to have sump pumps, roof drains, all that stuff going into our system, because that's water that we're treating that does not need to be treated. We should be treating, we only put out 1.7 million gallons a day at the water filtration plant. We should be treating a little bit over that because of the North Bennington. So we're about 4.6 is our running annual average right now.
And when did that increase happen?
It's been kind of right there. We've got a lot of old pipes, So the joints also leak. County Street, we just changed that County Street section down on, from Benmont and up County Street to Depot Street. And that was 15-inch clay tile and every joint leaked. So if you televised it with a sewer camera, you could see that water was coming in at every joint. We put that new pipe in and that sealed all that up. So then you see all the houses around there, all of a sudden they got to start using sump pumps.
Can you look at North Bennington, where we do know that there's quite a bit of sump pump use or just?
I think you find the same is true in downtown Bennington.
Yes, yes.
You know, it is something we are aware of. In the last upgrade back in the 80s, we spent over $2 million replacing lines that we had identified as problems. As Larry has said, we've just done the museum because the line comes down through the museum woods and was impacted by root infestation, all that stuff. So that's what we're doing. On an annual basis, we try to identify the worst spots. And we have the authority to force people to remove their sump pumps and the roof drains from the sewer system. But you also have to have a place for that water to go. Because otherwise it ends up dumping out onto the street in the middle of winter, and then we've got icing problems. So it's a constant issue.
So then do we see a need to expand, to increase capacity at some point, because we're not going to be able to address?
I don't think at this time. I think we can kind of move along and see how it goes, and each time we change out a section of pipe, things get a little bit better. So.
I mean, I'm just very surprised to hear this because, I took classes out to the sewage treatment plant for many, many years as part of environmental studies classes, and the language was always, and this was back when we had industrial hookups.
Yeah.
We have plenty of extra capacity, not to worry. I mean, there are a couple times a year where we have
during a rain.
Use the back 40, but generally that's rare. So
And
I'm very surprised to hear some of the change in language.
Part of that running annual average is also these rain events that we're getting now. I mean, our flow can go from 4 million gallons to 11 million gallons in no time. So the plant can handle around 11 million gallons a day through there safely and effectively, and still meet our permit, because most of that's coming down as rainwater at that point. So it's not as difficult to treat. Yeah, to pollution. Yeah. So yes, the rainwater obviously is a lot easier to treat, but you still get the sediment from like the debris, the gravel, the rocks, the stuff that shouldn't be in there that's making its way into the sewer, sanitary sewer.
So when I'm hearing that Bennington can support 700 or 800 apartments, and now we can have 4- and 5-story buildings in the downtown, can our current system handle that?
Our current system can, yes. Eventually it will get to the point where our running annual average will be close. We're at, I think, 4.6 or 4.8.
And are we going to have to do upgrades to our water and sewer in the downtown for all this development?
We just did the big one on County Street. That was needed regardless, but that was a big main interceptor that was failing. And that alleviated a lot of the flow on Depot Street. We have slip line Depot Street because that was the next section that was starting to crumble. But there's a 12 and an 18 on Depot. There's parallel sewer mains, and they both run full, and we slip line them, and it's working well.
Main Street and Depot Street and Washington and South Street, they're all set, they're all up to where you need to handle this.
South Street was new in '98. They blasted South Street, did water sewer.
The reason I'm bringing this up is I read all the plans for 7 years, how the TIF program, TIF district, was going to cover these costs because everyone knew the local water and sewer users or taxpayers couldn't afford the upgrades. And now that our town walked away from the TIF last year, I don't want to hear that this is going to get dumped onto the people of Bennington. And, obviously this has nothing to do with you, but I just want us all to be on the same page of what everyone heard and everyone was promised for 7 years, and now that money won't be there, so, how the program worked.
Just to clarify, there were no water and sewer upgrades in the TIF plan.
So the 4-story building at Tuttle's and the proposed 5-story building at Martin's and the apartment complex behind there's no upgrades needed for water and sewer?
I know for a fact that the Tuttle's one did, because that got an allocation. We haven't done a study for the other one, but all indications are that there's plenty of capacity.
And does the state still require all the studies they used to, say, 7 years ago today, that they had in the past?
Well, all Act 50 applications require proof that the facility can be served by municipal services. And we wouldn't grant an allocation, even if it didn't go to Act 50, unless we could serve that particular development.
I just read the study that the owners of Aubuchon's did, where they had the engineers that had a lot of questions about the building that can now go up at Tuttle's, and I didn't understand if the state still requires the same studies to be done, or if they've done away with those.
They're all, there's been no change in the studies, but the primary entity that determines whether or not there's capacity to serve is the town of Bennington. So if we felt like we didn't have the capacity to serve a particular development, we would not grant them a water and sewer allocation if they would not be able to develop the property.
And depending on the gallons per day that they're using, their allocation rate changes. So if it's a bigger user, such as a 4-story, 60-unit place, their allocation, they're buying their spot into the sewer and water system. So I'm not sure it's...
And another thing we talked about out there is you're out of land?
Yes, we are. We're on a postage stamp out there.
Do you see a time where we would need more land?
Yes. At some point, we're going to have to do something different with our system, and it may not be for 20 years, it may not be for 30 years, but at some point, I don't see Bennington getting smaller. It's only going to get bigger, I would assume. So at some point, yes, we would probably be looking to...
We should be thinking ahead now to that. I mean, common sense, I would think ahead, rather than people who are 30 finding out when they're 50, we're in trouble, so...
There is some land next door that's owned by Pembroke Landscaping to the west, I guess.
So we might want to start having conversations.
Possibly, that would be a conversation between Ron and Stuart or Dan or us. But it's something to look at.
We're aware of that, and we haven't started those conversations yet, but we will most likely be looking at that over the next 2 years.
Okay. And I couldn't believe what I saw when I went out there, and I think it would be helpful to have Cat TV or somebody maybe not do the extensive tour that I got, but just to let the public understand what 7 people are doing, the buildings, the engines, the motors, everything you're doing out there. I think it would be so beneficial for the public to even be able to see that online. That lovely mess you showed me of what people shouldn't be putting down drains. I wish there was smell-o-vision, and I can't imagine. But again, it makes you wake up and think, if you see this, I mean, I would love to have you come in once a year on a regular agenda. If you could put up on the wall what you showed me on your computer, where you can light up the water and sewer system like a Christmas tree, that's what people need to see, to understand how their money's being spent, how you can look at that, how you can do it from home, and pinpoint where the issue is. Now, I don't know if you could put it up there, but I think people would enjoy seeing that probably more than probably anything else they've seen, just to understand what's going on. And that's what we have to be better about, showing people, explaining to people what their money's being spent for. I can't believe 7 people do all that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a little follow-up. I think with the slip lining and the old clay tile pipe we're replacing in-house, I think we're definitely helping the I&I issues. You know, we've definitely slip lined some real hot spots that there was definitely clean water being sealed up, so it's not going down the sewer system. So it does make a difference. I think we're we're definitely going forward and less treating clean water every year.
And would you have any idea, and I know a lot of our lines left are still 100 years old, what percentage here in Bennington would you think have been updated? Is it 50%? No, not even close.
I think you'd be down around 25, 30%. There's a lot of sewer lines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of,
I mean, that's something
every
we have
street,
to worry
every
about.
street.
I mean,
A lot
just because they're clay doesn't mean they're not working properly anymore. I mean, there's some that look like they've just got laid in the ground, there's no roots in them, there's no I&I coming in, but, you know, in other places, just the opposite.
But Benmont was the surprise when,
Absolutely, well,
and that's
yeah.
what worries me. I know they made things right 100 years ago, but we could have 2 or 3 or 4 of those possibly pop up, and,
A lot
I
of
mean,
it depends.
everybody's dealing with this in Vermont, New England, but,
Luckily, we have very talented people and we can fix these, a lot of them in-house, you know, when they do.
well,
All right, any other questions?
No questions, but I heard from my boss, so, yeah, we have some more wiggle room. I can stick around at least another half hour, 45 minutes if need be.
Okay,
Okay.
great. All right, so,
If there are no more questions and you folks are comfortable, I would ask that you approve the proposed budgets as presented, and that would allow us then to move towards setting the rates on June 24th. I mean, we have an estimated rate here,
Right.
but we'd want to fine tune it once we have the final numbers all in place.
just a quick question. I thought normally we approved it at a regular meeting.
we will the 24th. So what we're doing.
Well, now, what we've been doing in the past is we approve the budgets at the work
Yeah.
session if we are able to.
Yes,
And then we set the rates based on those budgets at a regular select
so we'll
board.
set the rates on the 24th.
Well, if we
It's
approve
what
it
the
tonight,
board-
we're approving everything right now, right?
Right now,
Right.
if,
That's why we're having this meeting right
yeah.
now.
If
Yeah.
you would approve these budgets, that allows us then to go forward and project what the rates are actually going to be. We have estimates here based on what we presented. Any changes that would be made here would affect those rates one way or the other. If you make no changes by adopting these budgets, that gives us the green light to go ahead and calculate the rates for the June
Okay.
24th.
So that's why we're asking questions now, because if there's anything in what's being presented that we don't agree with, that we think should either be there should be more money allocated or less money allocated, now is the time to say that. Because then what happens is we move forward with
I
the-
understand, but when this is on the next agenda at the end of the month, if a citizen comes in and says, you know, well, why didn't we've already approved this.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right. That's why we have this budget meeting. That's one meeting right now.
Right.
Yeah. So, Sam, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I have a lot.
Okay.
Sam Rustino, good morning, Bennington, Vermont. Any particular reason why we had more sewer breaks this year than water breaks?
So it has to be, so please, keep it to the budget, okay?
Well, this is part of budget. As you know, we had a lot of sewer breaks over the wintertime. Up in Old Bennington, that was a major one, in front of the Bennington Rescue Squad, that was number 2. We had more sewer breaks than we had water breaks.
Okay.
And
Right.
any way of figuring out why we're having so many sewer breaks as opposed to a water main breaks? And there again, when Nancy brought up the issue about our grinders, don't flush wipes. Are we getting out to the general public of what's going through our wastewater treatment plant? I truly think that people tend to forget, and they use our wastewater system as a trash can. We're not,
Any more
and
questions?
when people don't realize how much it costs for these individuals to do the maintenance and the costs, that's where we can cut our infrastructure down. And I've been asking this since the town meeting in March about our infrastructure. We've got a Depot Street bridge that needs to be repaired.
Sam, questions, please. So we've got water breaks, and are we getting the information about wipes out? Any
Well,
other
what about
questions?
the repair on Depot Street? We've got infrastructures there of water and sewer. How much is that going to cost to do a repair on that bridge? And secondly, I'm just trying to keep our infrastructures down. We can't get any grants from the state on this. I strongly urge that the town of Bennington make applications to the state of Vermont to get funded for our infrastructure.
So, okay, thank you. So 4 questions. So what's with the water breaks? getting information out about wipes, the costs on Depot Street, was that Depot Street?
The first question to answer was the brakes on County and McKinley. They're both large diameter sewer mains that were collapsing. We did have a failure on County Street, or on Benmont Avenue. So after identifying that sewer main, we decided to change the whole sewer main because it was all in similar condition. McKinley Street, we did have a sewer backup at a house, and while jetting and televising, we noticed that the clay was failing, so we proactively decided to change that section because it was all cracked. So they were sewer breaks, I guess you could call them, but realistically it was just the deteriorating of the clay tile, which happens throughout the whole system. It's 100 years old, some of this clay. And then a lot of it depends on the backfill material. If it's in a stony area, then the stones move around and start cracking the pipe. We did have quite a few water main breaks also, but there's really no explanation for water breaks. They just happen. Like the one on Sear Court in your neighborhood, there's really no reason. It just lets go. There was nothing in our system that showed pressure surges or increases. No hydrants were flowed during that time, so just one of those things. The wipes at wastewater, yes, we do try to get the notices out to everybody. Jonah does a great job putting them on Facebook in the past, the do not flush notices, different chemicals, the wipes, the things that shouldn't belong in a sewer system. We've tried to get the word out there the best we can. They still continue to come.
Luckily, with our new screening building, though, it takes them out of the whole system. They pretty much stay where the intake is, where it comes into the facility, and they don't get wrapped around every gear and pump and everything else.
So we used to spend a lot of time getting them out of pumps. So that ball of rags would come down and get stuck in a pump chamber or a valve or a transition where it comes from 8 to 6 inch pipe and it wads it up. So you'd take all the pipe work apart to get the rag out, or take a pump apart to pull the rags out of it. With the new screening building, which was a huge improvement in 2019 when we did the upgrade, 2018, 2019, all of the rags get removed before they make it into the plant. What Nancy saw was everything's flushable.
They say they're flushable.
Wipes are not flushable. So between the wipes and the low use, the toilets that now only use 0.6 gallons a minute or 0.6 gallons per flush, there's not enough water being flushed to actually move the wipes along. So over the last 5 years, we have seen continued plugs due to wipes and not enough water flowing down the pipe. Everything is water conservation toilets, which is great for the water system, not so great for the sewer system. Great for the plant, but not for the system. We're not moving the material down the pipe like it should. Some of these pipes don't have the pitch that they are supposed to have. So the wipe will go and sit in the pipe, and then the next one comes down, and then it starts building a dam. Next thing you know, you've got a plug that's 3 feet long of wipes, and water's trying to get around it, and it just stops. So
You need to post,
Sam, no.
you need to
Sam,
post
no.
a picture of what you showed me out there.
So can we finish with Sam's questions?
Yep.
Which, state of Vermont funding for any of our projects? Do we
Well,
go after grants?
we are always seeking funding assistance, especially for the major upgrades to the plants and our facilities, pump stations and the like. However, most of the line repairs are not fundable by the state unless you're looking at a major project which would involve several miles of a system where that might then qualify for state funding or state assistance. But generally the state does not fund line repairs or small line replacements. They look to the plants because they're concerned about the outflow or inflow to the system or outflow from the system, not so much how it functions once it's in the system. And so that will fall to us, and I think that's why we, in the sewer system, we are budgeting more and more for operating supplies, because we know we're going to be taking on a lot of line repairs to try to eliminate inflow and infiltration, but also to eliminate some of the faulty service lines and faulty manholes that we have in the system now.
All right, we have 20 minutes to finish up this session, so I want to make sure that if there are any questions that are specific to what we have in front of us in terms of costs for water and sewer, that we are addressing that so that we can make a motion to approve this today with whatever changes we are wanting to make. Any other questions?
Just one quick statement, Sam Rustino. I just heard now that we don't have enough water flow to clear our sewer systems. I know we have a jet system, a jet truck that is periodically out in the public roadway jettisoning our sewer system. We need to get this information out to the general public and really hammer it hard. Just because you can flush, we're not getting our flow rate through our sewer system, and that's an added cost. Do you know how much of an added cost yearly to flush our sewer lines, or it goes on a year-to-year basis?
We do a quarterly jetting program that we do all of the hot spots through town. We go out and do quarterly jetting, which you saw on the banner the other day was one of our wastewater employees doing quarterly jetting. So that's something that we do. Every Friday, there's probably 60 to 70 manholes on the list that we check that we've had problems in the past, or it's a low flow area. Every Friday, no matter what, unless it's a holiday, we move it to Thursday, but every week we're out there checking those hot spots to prevent a future backup. A lot of times they may check them and there's nothing. Other times they may be jetting 3 or 4 different spots in the system. That's part of the maintenance of that sewer system. There's 70-something miles of sewer system ranging in size from 36 to 6-inch sewer that we own. And to hit every spot all the time is not possible.
And that vacuum truck is playing a big role in this, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We used it last year to jet and clean lines, and instead of just pushing our jetter the small jetter that we have will pull and clean a line, and that we put a basket in and try to catch everything that comes by. The vac truck, we can actually put the snorkel right down in the manhole, and as we jet anything that we're jetting, it will suck it right out of the sewer system.
And how long did it take to pay it off?
We paid $78,000 for the truck used. We were paying a private company to use their truck 3 weeks out of the year, 2 weeks in the spring and a week in the fall, and that's right around $3,000 a day. But if you did the math, we needed to run that truck for around 26 days.
So it paid for itself in 26 days, and it saves us a tremendous amount of money all year. And this is what the public, I didn't know it was when you showed it to me and when you explained it. This is what people have to understand when we can do things that are saving money, but people don't know. That's why I'd love to get you in here at least once a year, water and then sewer and even highway. This is what people want to hear, need to hear.
All right, if I'm not hearing any other questions, could I have a motion to accept the water and sewer fund budgets as presented? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Just remind me, what are we voting? It's water is what and sewer is what? I know it's right
If you're
here.
looking for the percent increases, the water fund budget is up 2.7%. The sewer fund budget is up 3.5%. The rates will be set on the 24th. We have an estimated rate increase of 3.7 in water, and 4.1 in sewer.
All right, so we have gone through this budget. We've not made any changes to this budget. So we have a motion on the floor to accept this budget.
And
All
we're-
those in favor?
And the water and sewer user increase will be 5 point,
You have it in your page.
Yeah,
I know, I just wanted the total, so that when people,
yeah. The water customer will see a 3.7% increase in his or her rates. The sewer customer will see a 4.1% increase in his or her sewer rates.
so we're looking at a total of about 8?
Look at that colored back.
They're not, you wouldn't.
About 48.
Right, no, yeah.
So it's a blended of about maybe 2.8 or 9.
Yeah, then the rates end up getting blended. And we can talk about that when we come to you.
A
with
flat
the
rate
rates.
user will see about a $48
Because
increase.
we're not setting the rate.
I just, we were talking 3 point something, and I was fine with that. I just want to know, when they're getting their bills,
Right.
are they going to see like a total, is it going to be like a 5.7% increase, or are we talking 8 point something
Per
percent
year,
increase?
it'll be about $12 a quarter if you're on both. You're going to see about $48 a year increase if you're on town water and sewer.
I just want somebody to tell me the number.
It's going to be something below 4%.
But we're not doing that right. We're not
But
setting the
it will be
rate.
something just below 4%.
Yeah.
You end up blending them. They're not
They're not added.
they're not added to.
But if we're voting to approve the budget, then the rate we're going to approve at the meeting has to go along with the budget.
But
Am I
Nancy,
correct?
we're approving a budget that we just went through. So if you have changes to this budget, that is why we've had a copy of the budget and why we are meeting with these great folks
I understand
today.
that, and I want to be able to tell people when they say, okay, what am I going to be going up?
So that's how it works with taxes too. You approve a budget and then we base
But
it.
The
the question is, how much is it, and we've got the projection right there, so Melissa, maybe you want to go.
What'd you say, Larry, 22?
On this sheet, it's right on this sheet that you have in front of you. If you
Yep.
look on the left-hand side, which is water, there's 3 pink boxes. If you look at the second box, it says per person yearly increase, $22.92 for, and that's per year. So for somebody who has water services, their annual increase will be, and who is on a flat rate, will be $22.92 estimated at this point. If they have both water and sewer, then across the way here in the sewer section, you have $24.91. The sum of those two together would be the increase for them per year. So 20.
Yep, that's what I'm
Just under
looking for.
$48.
Yes, per year.
So it's on your, we all receive this in our packet.
Okay, so am I looking at a $50? Jeannie, can't.
It's right here, sweetheart.
I'm good.
So your house, you're on town water and sewer, your annual bill will go up just under $48. Because you're on flat rate, you don't have a
Well,
meter.
what, $40?
48, just under $48.
$48 for everything.
For everything.
Yes. Okay, that's all I needed,
Yep.
because that's what people are very concerned about. I can live with $40.
If you're on a meter, that's a different rate. It's still proportional, but it's around.
But most of the homeowners, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
You're
Well,
right.
geez, that was a long way to get to an easy answer. That's good.
And all this information is online, the packet is online.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to accept the water and sewer budget, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you all for coming out this morning.
Thank you very much.
Take muffins.
We have muffins here. There's some coffee left too, if you want to grab a cup of coffee before you go.
Well, this was a short 4 hours.
Yay. We could have started at 10.
But I wonder, couldn't we do this at a regular meeting?
No, because sometimes it does take 4 hours.
Well, but there's times we've spent more than an hour on other things, and I think it's important for people to hear this.
I think you're incorrect.
Oh, can we have a motion to adjourn? Yeah.
Thank you.
A second? Did you second? Oh, okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.